morning once again, and thank you for watching Sunrise at Sea this morning. My name is Sandra Kopp, and I am here to discuss the Twitter Jabs 2 this morning. If you missed Twitter Jabs 1, we are discussing the final investment decision on Uganda's oil, and this was recently signed by synod and France's Total Energies on Tuesday as they announced the final investment decision to start commercial production in Uganda, that is commercial production of oil in Uganda. But before I go on any further, in studio I have a very special guest with me, and it is Dr. Patricia Litho that is here with me. Good morning, Doctor. How are you? Thank you for coming.
Good morning, and morning viewers.
Well, the doctor is Head of Communication and Information Development at the Ministry of Energies and Ministry Development, and she has joined us this morning. The good doctor is also a board chairperson of the Uganda Media Women's Association, and she's the Head of Communication and, of course, PR at the Ministry of Energy. Again, Doctor, thank you for gracing us with your presence this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And my, oh my, do we have questions this morning?
Yes, I can just imagine.
Well, let's dig into it.
Yes.
230,000 barrels we expect.
Yes.
What can Uganda and Ugandans expect?
I think Ugandans should be excited, hopeful, because what we've been waiting for is finally here. I know there's a bit of confusion of what the final investment decision actually means. It's that last step you take to commit. So we are taking off, not turning back, and we're starting the development phase. Of course, in the oil production process, we normally have three major processes. We have the exploration that has been done, and there's evidence that there's oil in the Albertine. But also, just to quickly mention that we have new discoveries in the Kada Mountains in Moroto. So there's prospects for even more beyond the Albertine region. And then we have the next phase we are moving into, which is the development phase. And that is where we are doing the final investment decision. And then, of course, the production.
Yes.
So we should be excited because we expect to produce over 60,000 liters of
per
oil
day.
Per day.
Per day.
Yes. And of course, with oil, there are many other benefits. I know we are mainly focusing at the oil, but there are also other products that we can get off petroleum.
Yes.
And there's been this whole excitement or reservations about the world moving
away from
petroleum. I don't think we should worry. To begin with, the new technologies, optional technologies to using petroleum, mostly in transportation. There are those alternatives of using electricity to charge, using other renewables. But you see, petroleum is not just for the transportation fuel. You look amazing this morning. That's a petroleum product. The makeup that we love so much. Some of the coating on medicines, that is petroleum. The tires that we use, the rubber, that is petroleum. There's so many possibilities. The finishing on this furniture, that is petroleum. Sometimes, cotton can be problematic. To improve the quality of cotton, you can find you're wearing maybe 62% polyester, which comes of petroleum, and the other bit is cotton. So it enhances, it adds value. So even if we sort of take a different direction, Uganda is particularly looking at an energy mix where we're looking at different sources of energy. I don't think there should be a worry that it's a waste of time to invest in this sector, because there's hope, and there are so many possibilities. It's in our hands.
The possibilities are endless.
Yes, it's in our hands to exploit it, to enhance it, but there's also a need for a little patience, because now we are beginning to do the development, now that we've discovered these commercial quantities. I mean, discoveries date back to the 1920s, then again in 1930s. So there have been possibilities, there have been evidence. Sometimes they say it has evaporated. The stories the president was sharing about Uganda's oil journey.
Yes.
But for sure, in the last 15 years, there's been evidence that there's commercial possibilities.
Yes.
And if you look at the nature of investors coming into Uganda, that says something.
Which brings me to my next question, good doctor.
Yes.
Why synod and Total Energies and Tanzania? Why them?
Why them? Of course, there is a process where you sort of call out simply put, you announce for people interested in investing. So there's a whole process of bidding, of evaluating, and then you choose the best. So people bid, and then you negotiate with them. And once you negotiate with them, agree on key things, they should be able to start doing the work. Now, I know in Uganda there's been misgivings and the waiting, and is this really happening? Is it really there? It was all for a good reason. I know the fear of the oil curse and what might happen. Uganda deliberately had to ensure that there's a win-win situation for Ugandans. What that meant is that we had to work on our legislation to ensure everything is okay. And just at the end of last year, we had Parliament pass these bills that will ensure that we get something out of it. They had to review the public finance. They had to look at taxation to ensure something comes back to us. And Uganda is also coming in as a business player. So we have the business arm that is UNOC, Uganda National Oil Company, that is having 15% shares. Then we have Total having 62, and then we have synod. So it is not just that we went and picked them like that, but there was a whole process.
They fit the criteria.
Yes, but also if you look at such major companies staying the course and being part of the final investment decision, it speaks to something.
It speaks volumes.
Yes,
they
are reputable. They've been in these industries for so long, and they've paid attention to some of what Uganda would like. Of course, it's a win-win. It's a business. They've put in a lot of their money, billions, and in Uganda shillings, trillions of shillings.
Yes.
We didn't really have that potential, and I've brought it in. So it really can't be a 50-50. I've sort of seen on social media some people saying 15% only, it is our oil. But you see, for all these years, we've been unable to extract it.
That's true.
Even when Uganda built capacity and finally were able to do the exploration ourselves and showed there's evidence, still the machinery to go down and check if the oil is actually there, we're unable to do that. And these companies that have the experience, that have the technology, that have the finances to basically invest in this, were able to come on board and support us in this cause.
So that's why it took long, like since 2006, and like the president was saying, from then we were not really ready. So it was sort of like putting the cart before the horse. But now the timing is right. It's completely right.
That's what it seemed like. But we had to prepare. We had to prepare because this is an industry we hadn't really actively participated in before, so we had to prepare the ground. We talked about the legislation, there also environmental compliances that we had to meet. So environmental impact studies had to be done, and to make sure these companies are compliant, and that has been done. But also those nitty-gritties, tying the loose ends, so that when we start, we are comfortable enough. It's never 100%, but at least we are comfortable enough, like, now we are ready to start on this journey. But also, it's not true that nothing was happening. That exploration that was happening, it's been happening during the 15 years. So it's like there was nothing going on. There are things going on, but some of these are back office technical things that might be too difficult to keep engaging with, telling people, oh, now we hit a rock, okay, now we have to do this. Yeah, people want to hear it's there and we want it now, as the
which
excitement
can't happen
shows.
Overnight.
Exactly.
What about the local communities when around the Albertine Graben area? The local communities, people say that there's a lot of land grabbing, land fragmentation. People went and bought a lot of land so they can be compensated. What is going on around that area? Because people who have never been there actually think that the people are very impoverished around that area. They are being exploited. They're being told to leave their land. Is that true, Doctor? What about those communities?
It's not true, and this is a great opportunity for Ugandans to visit the Albertine region. Part of the guarantee is the infrastructure development that has been done. So already there are benefits of this project. So there's a beautiful road network that has been built, and you can drive on tarmac. And if you had been to these areas before, you'd be shocked at how easy it is to move, and the beautiful tarmac, and how Bulisa has changed, especially Bulisa. Hoima, there was something to look at, but places like Bulisa, it's a whole new world. The road network, the schools that have come up. Now, the resettlement camps. that have been put up, the corporate social responsibility.
Yes.
We've compensated you for the land, but we've also done something else. We are providing improved households. We are providing schools. We are bringing services near.
Closer,
we are putting up health centers, schools, security. There are police stations, brand new. They look amazing. You should visit some of these places. So as opposed to being on social media, sitting back in Kampala, wherever we are making noise, I dare Ugandans to pay a visit to the Albertine region. Another thing has been done because part of this network goes to northern Uganda. And what used to happen before is that you couldn't cross the park. But there's been tarmac that has been built, a bridge has been built, and you can now cross the Nile. Within a short time, you're on the other side. So those are some of the benefits we have got. Some churches have been rebuilt. There's an airport, a new Kabale airport that is coming up, and it's all because of the possibility of producing oil by 2025. So people are compensated. Of course, it's an open market.
Yes.
Some people get wind of things. And sometimes, Ugandans, we like to be complacent and sit back, government, tuyambe, put it on my laps. We need to actually get hold of these opportunities and do something about it. And that's what happened in this region, that possibly some people went and bought land very cheaply because they knew of these possibilities that were coming up, while the rest of us were still doubting, is oil really there? No, this is some political statement that is going on. So they were wise, and they were able to see these opportunities, and they exploited it by buying land cheaply. And then when the assessments were being done, they've been compensated handsomely. There are other people who are setting up hotels in places where there were no hotels before. And those opportunities in agriculture, they're going to buy food locally, transport services, security services, local labor force. So there are opportunities that we need to take care of. There are even professional jobs, because Uganda during these 15 years has also been building its own capacity. So you'll find in places like UNOC, like Petroleum Authority of Uganda, these are Ugandans, if Ministry of Energy, here I am, Yes. So there are possibilities for employment, direct and indirect one. But are we seeing the opportunities? Are we taking advantage of them? And during the final investment decision phase, this development phase, this is actually the best time to exploit, because there's a lot of work going on. There are a lot of services required. But once all these things have been set up, the pipeline has been built to Tanga, over the 1,400 kilometers, maybe we don't need so much in terms of all these services we are talking about, because now if we are transporting the petroleum using the pipeline, automatically business drops for
it does.
For the fleet that we've been using. Of course, they'll still be necessary, but those opportunities drop down. Yeah, there are a lot of things where we shall have less demand of. So I think Ugandans should be wise.
And strike when the iron is still hot.
right now. And maybe just one thing to mention about these opportunities, Petroleum Authority of Uganda, that basically regulates the sector, also has a database where it registers capacity. So if you think you have capacity to participate in this sector, it would be nice to register with them.
Well, you heard that, Ugandans. Please register with the Petroleum Authority of Uganda if you have the capacity. But Doctor, talking about environmental protection during this extraction, we have had concerns about this. So what is going to happen? Are they going to adhere to the Petroleum Act as they extract? Because Ugandans are really worrying about dumping of crude oil that will kill ecosystems, and it's a heated pipeline. So how are we going to mitigate that?
We expect compliance, and there's commitment to compliance by the oil companies. And that is why there were some preconditions actually given before the final investment decision was made, that being part of it. So the environmental impact assessment was done, the regulators ensured that they passed, and beyond now, Petroleum Authority of Uganda will ensure compliance. So part of what we are going to do, or the oil companies will do to ensure environmental compliance, the pipeline is literally going to be buried underground. So it's just during that construction phase that there might be some exposure, but it's all going to be buried, leveled back. We plan to plant trees on either side of that pipeline, the 1,443 kilometers to Tanga. From Hoima, we are replanting trees, and some of these areas didn't even have trees before. So as opposed to just conserving, we are also improving for certain places that did not have, and many other things that will happen to ensure there's compliance. Even the kind of dumping, all those things that have been reconsidered. So for instance, Uganda is not going to allow the usual way of how can I best put it that people understand it? You know how you see the flaring of fuel?
Yes.
Yes, if you've seen maybe in films or things when they're burning.
At the refinery.
Yes,
Yes, I've
yes.
seen that at the
We've opted for newer technology, so none of that is going to be seen. So that shows that, yes, we are paying attention to the environment.
Yes.
We are compliant. I know a lot of civil society organizations have misgivings, but I think they should give government the benefit of doubt. The fact that we have spent 15 months preparing the bed, they should give government the benefit of doubt and see that it is actually going to happen. We're actually going to be compliant. And even now, if you go to the exploration spots, you won't even find an exposure of soil or anything.
Because that's what people think. They're like, you're
No,
going to
no,
find
no,
a
no, no,
huge hole, you know, and
No.
sand on the side, and it's so dangerous. And
No, once
how
the
does it
drilling
look
is
like?
done, the rigs are put in, literally like how you find those water holes for emergency fire extinguishing.
Yes.
That is all you're going to see. That is all you're going to see in
Interesting.
these parks. And like I said before, I dare the Ugandans to pay a visit to the region,
I'm definitely
and the CEOs to pay a visit to the region, as opposed to sitting out there and just making allegations. We dare you to go see and say you're wrong on this one.
Wow,
Yes.
you had that. I
so
have
we are
to go over
confident
there.
that we are compliant, and we shall remain compliant.
Wow.
And by 2025, when we see the first oil, we'll all be happy.
Let's move on to, for example, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC.
Yes.
It's endowed with such natural resources, but it's riddled with bad governance, conflict, and impoverishment. How is Uganda going to mitigate the resource curse?
Well, already we've talked about some of the measures that have been put in place, because sometimes what brings the conflict is how do you share the resources. So of course
Exactly.
some of the misgivings Ugandans are having is Uganda getting anything? Yes. And that is why we spent a bit of time on the legislation to ensure we get back. So from the taxation and Uganda having shares in this production, and by the way, in this development phase, Uganda is not even spending its money. It will be, yes,
The
we've
investors
put it,
are.
yes, the investors are, but there's a way we are going to work it out.
Yes.
So that speaks to something. And there is a petroleum fund that has been developed, and this money is going to be put into infrastructure development that the government actually needs. So once you see the benefits you're actually getting, you have better roads,
Yes.
you have
Jobs.
yes, you have a lot of jobs, your children and things like that. You know, it widens the opportunities. Part of the challenges that the youth are facing today are the possibilities out there. Yes?
Yes.
And we are not all creative to be able to create jobs for ourselves, but we rely on employment. Now, this
Yes.
is an area that had never been explored, and already thousands of Ugandans are already employed in the oil sector, and more are to be employed. And already the Kigumba Institute, that was really set up for this purpose, is training and churning out, you know, people who are trained in the sector. So there are a lot of possibilities. Direct employment, indirect employment, through the entrepreneurial opportunities out there.
Okay.
Yes.
And when the first oil drops, we're expecting this in 2025.
Yes.
Will it affect fuel prices? I mean, after this whole fuel fiasco that we have gone through with the high fuel prices, I think people are very excited to know in the future, will it?
Of course, it goes without saying that things will improve, but
Yes.
also for commercial viability, normally the idea is to basically base yourself on international standards. What's the crude oil price at the moment? What's the going price at the moment? But we shall be in a better state than where we are now. We shall be able to control, and the government is putting up more reservoirs, because we only had the Ginger one that also needed renovation. And the reserve can only serve about 5 days, but now there are plans for another one to be set up in Kampala, another one to be set up in Mityana. So all these opportunities, all these potentials. So if we are producing ourselves, we shouldn't have those moments of scarcity with those huge price fluctuations, but we have more stable prices.
Okay.
Yes.
That is definitely good news. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes,
but
there
before
is.
we go, Doctor, when do we expect this refinery? What's the timeline for this refinery? Some people are wondering, okay, when are we going to have our own refinery? When can we expect this?
Oh, normally after the final investment decision, it takes about 3 to 5 years to finish the construction of things. And already as we speak, there's work going on in these places. If you visit Tilenga or Kingfisher, in Tilenga you'll find they're already leveling the ground, they're doing all these different things. So perhaps in less than the 5 years, and maybe 3 years, we should be ready. So if we look at 2025 and 2022,
yes.
those are 3 years, not
Yes,
so.
yes.
Yes. So I think in 3 years, just before then, of course, the refinery has to be ready for us to be doing this. So in 3 to 5 years, everything should be ready. We should be beginning to see and enjoy the benefits. And already, even during exploration, there were Ugandans already enjoying the benefits in terms of those who are in service industries like catering, hospitality, hotels, agriculture. People already enjoying these benefits. And it's not for nothing, and there's more to come.
Well, you had that, Ugandans. You had that. Patience is a virtue. So please wait, be patient. The ministry knows what they are doing. They've got this, undercover. And before we go, we would like to hear something from Dr. Patricia Litho. Remember, she is the head of communication and information management from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. Your parting shots, Doctor.
My parting shots is that we will do a lot of stakeholder engagement, and I would like to thank CTV for giving us this opportunity. This is what we need to do, to give people the opportunity to ask, and we speak back and we respond through our social media, through our email. We're going to do a lot of stakeholder engagement. We'll hold, especially in the hosting communities, we already have a lot of community engagement where we explain things. Of course, project implementation is not always 100%. Sometimes there are those little bits of conflict.
Yes.
So through these processes, we try to address what the issues are, and we continue to do that. So please engage us. Seek the answers. We are available to give back, but most of all, let's be patient. It's a good road ahead.
Thank you again, Doctor, for coming through this morning. Such an insightful conversation this morning.
Thank you, and thanks for hosting me. And thanks, viewers.
Well, that was all we had for you on the Twitter Jabs 2 this morning, but don't go anywhere because we still have quite a show lined up for you this morning. Don't blink, stay at sea.